All right. Thank you everyone for waiting. Had a little technical difficulty with Zoom, but we are going to get going here as everybody is still filing in, so that works. Welcome. As usual, for those of you returning, we are happy to have you back. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, you're in for a treat. This is going to be an extremely helpful topic today as we are discussing closing the year. This is part one of closing the year in our end of the year series to help all of you designer folks out there get your business in line for the most wonderful season of all for businesses, and that's tax season.
That,
Hopefully my sarcasm was not subtle in saying that. But again, like I said, today we're talking about close the year. This is part one of our webinar series for end of year odds and ends. And with us, as always, is Julia. Julia, thanks for joining us and giving us this plethora of information for end of the year.
oh, well, thank you. I think it's the best time of year also.
Awesome.
I'm
Good.
only half joking. I think, you know what? It's such a great learning opportunity. I know it's a pain, but I think that, right, painful things can lead to growth. And so there's always opportunities to learn, even like for myself, right? Like we talk to clients all day long and you're constantly trying to encourage good habits.
Mhm.
But it's like such a reminder, right? I mean, that's the point. That we should
100%.
all be doing these things all the time. Anyway.
100%. Well, the reason why, part of the reason why I should say we have Julie here is because she's extremely qualified to be giving us this information. She runs her very own consulting firm, New Age Financial Consulting, which offers bookkeeping and accounting support, including CFO services for both large and small businesses. They specialize in unique and complex accounting needs of interior design firms and showrooms. So if that's something that you're looking for, absolutely reach out to her. We'll be providing her information at the end of the webinar. And they also offer comprehensive procurement services for designers and showrooms as well. So with that being said, the last house cleaning item I'm going to go over is we have a Q&A session. We'll probably be answering questions as we go along through the content, mostly handling them at the end. We don't want you to forget any of your questions. So during the webinar, at any point you have a question, click the little box with the question mark in it in your Zoom toolbar. This little window will pop up. Enter your question in there, and then I'll go ahead and moderate them for Julia as she shares her knowledge with us. And with that being said, Julia, I will hand it over to you
Oh,
to take over.
you are too kind. Okay, let's make sure I know how to share the right screen. Just always a fun game we play, you and I. Okay, can we see studio?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. As Anthony had mentioned, so wherever your Zoom toolbar is, that's where that Q&A box lives. So please feel free to throw in the questions in real time. A lot of times it's actually easier to answer them as we're in a certain screen or a certain report. So closing the year, we have 13 days, I guess, which is unbelievable, personally, in my opinion. And like I had mentioned in the beginning, it really is a good time to double check our habits, right? Our studio habits and our financial habits. So a lot of closing the year revolves around reports. On the design side, right, the designers should be living in our item screen here. So we're currently in our item screen. And then really secondary to that, in my opinion, is reports, right? Reports are your friend. Reports are your guidance, your guideline. They are a summary of your item screen, but in a much more concise and consistent way. So when you click on reports, always remember you could open up Studio in another tab, or you could have many tabs open at the top. If you're working in more than one tab, just refresh your screen, because if you did something in tab one, but you're also then in tab two, you need to refresh tab two to make sure it gets caught up with the information in tab one. So keep that in mind. For closing the year, we're actually going to start off with our income statement and balance sheet. Friendly reminder though, before you even look at those, make sure that all of your accounts are reconciled and up to date. And so what does that mean? So under accounting, you have this reconciliation button. It is your own double check of all of the information in your general ledger, well, all of the information and anything that's an asset or a liability ties to the financial institution. So in our test database, we have a plethora of financial institutions, which makes me laugh because if this was real life, I know personally I'd be very frustrated if you were making me log into 12 different banks. But if we just start out with Bank of America, and remember, it's even harder, I would say, to reconcile in the test database, right? Because we have nothing to reconcile against. So everything starts with your reconciliations before you're ready to file your tax returns. The reconciliation is that double check, the debit and credit, live on your statement, and also in Studio Designer. This is the time of year, though, honestly, to pick up discrepancies. So you should be picking up discrepancies the whole year, but we all know things like that get away from us. So I'm pretending like I'm reconciling November for my Bank of America cash account. I have a beginning balance on my statement. As you can see, it looks like we're doing well. We're ending with $1.4 million. But as you could also see, oh my golly, we have not done a good job reconciling. We have outstanding transactions from 2023. If this was for real life, as the little kids say, this would be a problem, right? Like this is not what your reconciliation screen should look like. Is it okay for you to have some lingering transactions? Sure, especially of checks that were issued this year, sure. But remember, we just did the 1099 webinar. Our 1099 webinar depends on cash transactions. So if you accidentally, and Holly Hunt is not a good example, if you accidentally, well, no good examples in Bank of America, but let's say this didn't say Cravat, and this said Joe's Upholstery. Let's say you paid Joe's Upholstery, and for whatever reason, it got into your or posted into your general ledger 5 times, and you went to go pull your 1099 totals, it would show that you paid Joe 5 times the actual amount that you paid him 5 times 28.44. And even though you didn't mean to, and even though he didn't get those checks, the 1099 generates from the debit and the credit. Well, from in this case, from the credit, right? From the payment. So this is your double check to look, and especially again, when November is not, though it is a good example, it's not, I would say, the best example. December is sort of your tried and true last final in terms of making sure that you fixed anything that was incorrect from the whole year. Because that's then reflected on your income statement and your balance sheet and your 1099s. I think there'll be another, maybe there won't be another 1099. In January, but there's definitely the repeats or the recordings from earlier this year. So last chance, right? This is like your last time to go in here and be like, oh my gosh, you know what? There's this, I don't know. There's this cash receipt for 25,000. I know I didn't get it. I meant to fix it. I know it's a problem. Like this is really the time. And I know the next 2 weeks can be a little bit quieter on the design side. If you have time and you're interested in this type of thing, go in here and make sure on the reconciliations, you don't have really old transactions. You may wind up even needing to reach out to either if you work with somebody on finance or studio support, because if you have old lingering, like really old lingering questions or unresolved transactions, they may require additional support, especially if a year's been closed, especially if you need to make an adjustment. So just do a double check. If you're logged into Studio now, just click through your accounts up here. Again, the test database is never reconciled. I don't think it's really ever reconciled. So if I go into this other account, right, it's saying I'm not reconciled through 2022. Again, if this was your database, this is a problem. This would be another conversation to have with somebody. Hey, I realized, I never reconciled. I realized there's all these things or these questions. What do I do? Reach out to support. We always joke at our office, like phone a friend. Cash accounts and credit cards. Credit cards. And remember, the credit cards, the way the debits and the credits work is they're opposite. So and I know we have a bunch. Look, we're very versatile in the banking institution area here. We are not tied to anyone. So on our Amex card, there should be a whole lot more credits than debits because the credit card is a liability. So, but same logic, same concept. Lingering transactions, delete them if they're not tied to a PO, the system will let you. If they are tied to a PO, the system will not let you. You'll only have the void option. So again, our Amex is not reconciled, but let's pretend we did all that. It all looks good. We also have a couple of loan statements in here. I think we actually have. Pretty sure we have an SBA. Yeah, so we have an SBA loan. That should be part of your closing process as well. So assets and liabilities. What does your liability look like? What do they look like? If you don't know, go to your report screen and pull up your balance sheet. I actually usually prefer to start with my income statement. It's a little bit easier, but pull up your balance sheet. So pull it up for December, exclude your zeros. Anthony, you know, every time. It's
Always.
just, I know. Come on. I like to exclude zeros. I don't like to look at them. It's my own personal preference. I don't want to see something that I don't necessarily need to see, especially my balance sheet. As we could see, we have a lot of cleanup to do. This is very, very glaring to me. We have undeposited funds of $282,000. I'm assuming those are old. We may really end the year, I guess, potentially with $282,000 of deposited funds, probably unlikely. Especially with that close of like especially with so many design firms closing next week. As you could see, we have a cash account that's in the negative. That's incorrect. This Baker credit is, I actually should solve this myself because I don't know how many years now I've talked about it to say this is not the the correct way of tracking a credit with Baker furniture, but it's here. We have an AR clearing problem, inventory, vendor deposits, accounts receivable. We have a suspense problem, a client deposits look good. We're trying to manage accounts payable overhead using a secondary GL account here. And so again, you go you go down the list. So if this was your balance sheet, no, so somebody's asking a question, is undeposited funds on client accounts? Well, so yes, if you posted it into money but you posted it to undeposited funds, but obviously in money in it's tied to a client, it will show up in your client deposit report associated with the client. On the cash side, it's just living in undeposited funds and not in cash. That's a really great question. So I actually skipped ahead to the balance sheet. I like to start with the income statement, but because we're on the balance sheet, when I pull this up and my assumption is, oh, well, everything actually, you know what, it looks good. I know I did the hard work. I went through my reconciliations. I don't have anything outstanding. What do I do now? So if you do have a suspense balance, you need to solve it. How do you solve it? I would say easiest way is go to your accounting screen, go to your general ledger, type in the word suspense in this account box. And I mean, look at just this year. If you know the problem just stems from this year, if you've had a lingering problem, then you're going to have to take out your date from filter. But see why suspense has been used. See if you could identify the problem quickly, right? I could see that 109.45 is both a debit and the credit. Suspense is a long time account, meaning it's like a legacy account. It was in the desktop database as well. And it's just a way to post into a normal asset or liability account without having to then reconcile it in the cash account. So if you need to move money, suspense is a great tool for it. I know on our side, from a firm standpoint, we use suspense a lot. We definitely use it to move money in and out of client deposit funds. We use it to move money in and out of different POs. So it has a place. Its place should be zero, but it does have a place. So don't keep that in mind as you're working in your general ledger throughout the year. Something else to start the balance sheet with also is to make sure your assets here total your liabilities and your equities. So 6.741395 total 6.741395. This can be out of balance. I believe at this point, and Anthony, correct me if I'm wrong, out of balance emails have been sent.
Correct.
And they've been sent to everyone who's out of balance, or is it in batches? Do you know by chance?
I think it was everyone. I'd have to double check, but I think it
Okay.
was everyone.
I think that too. And so what does that mean? So that means if you have, for whatever reason, like if something happened, and it is with a debit and a credit, right? So because accounting is double entry, meaning every debit has a corresponding credit. You can't get around that. You could, for whatever the reason, have a malfunction almost. And so it could cause one of these accounts to be out of balance. And Studio has sent those emails to you, so it'll say out of balance. If you have an error, and those emails actually should be detailed to say, here's what's causing the error. And I believe it gives you the steps to fix it. And then if you need additional help, obviously reach out to support. So check that first. So this liabilities and equity equal total assets, and then begin to look at your secondary subledgers. So we talked about how do you reconcile cash. So this you reconcile, so these numbers are correct. But then keep going. So we'll talk about inventory after the fact, but let's look at accounts receivable. So I have this accounts receivable number. What do I do with it? Well, is it correct? Go to reports, go to all, and type in accounts receivable. I like accounts receivable by invoice by item. I'd rather see all the information to understand what's going on. Friendly reminder, Studio Designer is accrual based only. So you should be filing taxes accrual based only. I would say for the most part, everybody's tax situation is unique and a little bit different. But that would be the general rule of thumb, and that is why Studio doesn't have a cash conversion option. It is only set out, or it's only programmed to run everything on an accrual basis. On an accrual basis, anything that you invoice in this 1.014 is picked up as income, regardless of if it's paid. So if it's open and you know that there's a problem with it, or you know a client's not going to pay, you're paying taxes on it. So if you know you have accounts receivable that either need to be voided or need to be closed out to bad debt, again, this is the time of year to do so. It's your double check. So I went in and I pulled this report. I like this report a lot, accounts receivable by invoice by item. If we were closing our database out in a good way, we would not have 2021 items on here. This would be a red flag in 2021. And then if we, for whatever reason, missed it in 2021, this should have been a red flag in 2022. Remember, we're in the test database, right? So your accounts receivable by invoice by item should be reflective of what is actually owed to you today. Meaning if it's old and unresolved, hopefully it should have been caught by now. I like to go to the bottom as well to make sure this report total matches this report total. So this 1.014, if you notice, doesn't match, right? And it's actually from a very old lingering transaction because we've had to find it before as we close the year. And I can't necessarily tell you why it happened. It goes back to why our account's out of balances. Something was tagged incorrectly, something was maybe on the GL side, it went in as a client payment, or a void happened, or something was re-invoiced. Honestly, it could be a number of issues. But normally, when you run this subledger, you should be able to see all of the numbers that make up this dollar value. And if you don't, that would be a question. And if you can't identify that answer, that's okay, but definitely make sure you're reaching out to support and asking them how to help you find those discrepancies. If when you pull, so let's see if we have even anything remotely recent on here. So my invoices, my accounts receivable, oh, we do. By invoice by item is 16 pages long. It has quite a lot of old open AR. In 2020, what this means is, right, if we were filing taxes on an accrual basis, we would have paid taxes on this, but then we never received it. So if you have voids to do, or if you have bad debt to write off, this is the exercise, this is the time to do it. I wanted to, oh, look, Jones. Well, Jones has old and new stuff. Maybe let's go to Hamilton. So I could see Hamilton never pay their design fees, right? For period ending means it's design fees or reimbursables. And you know what? I forgot. I was supposed to have written it off. I totally forgot, and I'm gonna go do that now. So you could void it. You can absolutely void it. It will reverse the debit and the credit in the GL. Actually, you know what? Let's do both. Let's void one and let's close one out. So I'm gonna go into Hamilton. I want to go into my item list and I actually just want to search for my invoices and I want to see where my time billing invoices are. I should have two open ones. I have 90 and 60. I realized, again, I completely forgot I'm gonna void. When I void, this will fall off my accounts receivable. And this will reverse itself in my income statement. So that means for this year, I'll pay taxes less than $1,200 in terms of our gross revenue and then our net income. So let's see what this looks like. So I'm going to hit void and it's going to ask me, are you sure I want to void? Yes, I absolutely am. And then go back into your general ledger. And I'm assuming it's in time billing. Oh, you know what? Let's just go to my invoice number. Ah, here it is. So this particular invoice, so let me take out this number too. So as you can see in 2020, I picked this up as income. That's what this means. There's a credit here and and that's related to income time billing. And then in 2024, 4 years late, I went in and I voided it because I'm realizing I picked up income that I shouldn't have. So I went in and I reversed it. And so when I reversed it, it's reducing the time billing in my current period. So just really remember that. The other thing that you can do is close out any money owed by a client to bad debt. I will tell you that there's not necessarily a downside to it, but what it does is it will inflate your these funds received and your cash receipts. But because if this client then, if Hamilton comes back to you and says, how much money did I give you over the course of my project? If you don't go into a project report or a client total balance, this number will be inflated. So we're going to close this billing here. We're going to close it. I think I have bad debt already in here. Write-off, maybe I have write-off. Loss write-off. We're going to close it to loss write-off. I like to be specific here. I'll just do loss and today's date. Again, there's pros and cons because so now this funds received went up, but if I go and pull my balance sheet, I'm sorry, my income statement, I am able to see over the course of a year or year to year, well, shoot, how much money did I write off one year versus the next? So this year we only wrote off this 26, 25. Well, what did I do in loss write-offs the year before? So just know what the pros and cons are and know what situation sort of works for you. So last year we wrote off 10 grand. And then if you know that you use a loss write-off account, that should also just be an indicator to your process that if somebody does come to you and ask about total cash receipts, that you would need to do that double, triple check to make sure that you didn't use a cash receipt and post it to loss write-off. Somebody has a question. So the relationship between client deposit and taxes, money received on a client job, but the job is not complete, and therefore an invoice has not been created. So the by the book answer to that is that yes, if it's in client deposit, remember your client deposit subledger is definitely a fan favorite. If you don't look at it all the time, you should. Anything in proposal deposit and funds available, then totals and client deposit. Client deposit here, well, remember this is a subledger. It should total 3499, 3494. It doesn't total. We have a discrepancy. In theory, we need to find it and fix it. This 3499 on an accrual basis is not income. It's deferred. It'll be deferred to 2025. It could be deferred till after that, depends on the longevity of the project. If somebody is taking this balance sheet here and your income statement and filing on a cash basis, this 3494 or 3499 is income in the year that it was received. So just very clearly remember that. And if you are sending it to somebody for your returns, I always say friendly reminder, even though it should be apparent, because the vendor deposits, especially like in this file, are huge vendor deposits and then client deposits. That should be indicative, but if it's not, just a good reminder. So we started pulling our subledgers, right? We looked at accounts receivable, ours don't match. I know it's shocking. We looked at client deposit, ours don't match. Client deposit is a report I know even on the webinars I've talked about a lot. It's a really fantastic report. If it's not on your radar in terms of a check-in, it should be, right? So my all-time favorite project management report is the 2010 project worksheet. We tell everyone, right, if you learn any report at a studio, that's the report to learn. But secondary to that, this is just a really easy one-stop place to understand where you are with projects and installations. And so because this report, and I think I should have excluded zeros. Yes, I excluded zeros. This report is telling me that Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson have $75,000 worth of money applied to proposals right here, applied to items that hasn't been invoiced. So that means work in progress, right? That means it's not installed yet. There wasn't a transfer of ownership. It also tells me they have funds available of 732,000. That's a really big number. And that's okay that it's there. We may use it next year. This project is ongoing. They wanted us to have a bucket of money. So we can see these totals very quickly. If I know that John Adams, this project installed earlier this year, and it's been closed, this report is quickly saying to me that something is wrong, that not all the invoicing was complete, and that we still have money and funds available that we're either keeping internally or giving back to the client, and that we have $11,000 worth of items not invoiced. So if they haven't been invoiced, they're also not on our income statement. Let's look through the year, includes zero, no. So if it's on client deposit, and this is part of the question someone just asked, right? It's not living on this income statement, but your client deposit should be reflective of your year. And I would say for the most part, this is a time of year where you could get a little bit creative with it, but you know, what does that mean? That means something different for everyone. So quarterly for a client deposit report is a great starting tool. Absolutely annually to look to say, shoot, did I miss something? Did I forget? The designer that was working on John Adams, they actually left. I forgot that they left. I thought that they did all of the project cleanup, but clearly I could see that they didn't. So if you scroll, no, and here our projects need a lot of cleanup. 22. So there's some random amounts in here. So use the next couple of weeks to make sure that you're cleaning them up again accordingly. And remember, our subledgers don't match, so we definitely have a problem. So we did accounts receivable. Now we're on client deposit. Accounts payable is the same. So accounts payable has a detailed ledger, and it's actually really great. So let's leave our income statement open. Let's go to reports and let's go to all. And so if you just change starting the receivable to payable by order by item, but this is going to work the same way. So this subledger is going to be cumulative, meaning from all of time. And if you had issues in the past, you will have issues today. So if 2023 has never been resolved, this PO for bulbs, which is for tax, it really should be, right? So the same thing, you have all of this 2020 first dibs. Oh, this is related to inventory, but it's not showing that it was paid. So why was it entered? This also means inventory is incorrect. This is 12 pages. And you really may have an open order from 2023. I mean, probably not super likely, but you may You definitely could have POs open from even early 2024. I would urge you to look at these really, really old items. I don't know why we have this odd page break. That seems odd. 2022, 23. So again, our AP, it needs some help. We either are creating POs for fun and then not paying them, or we abandoned a bunch of orders, and that could happen. Somebody could go in and make this order for Crate and Barrel and then change their mind and they forgot to void. Great question, actually. So what should I do if money is in funds available that shouldn't be there? Someone moved money inaccurately, and I'm not sure the best way to clean this up. You could always reverse it out of money into revenue, but then that is inflating your revenue. I would urge you to understand maybe where it came from. Like, is it really tied to a cash transaction? And so a great way to identify anything tied to client money is the payment application report. The by date one is my favorite, but by the item one is good too, but I would start with the by date. So can you see where the money came from and then continue to work backwards to identify the final source of it? So if I put in, so my test client normally is 19th Street, meaning the one I mess around with the most. If I pull this report will literally tell me anytime money's ever come in and out of 19th Street, whether it be wrong or right, whether it be into client deposit or onto the item level. This is a really, really great report. Again, the legacy reports are the best. It can be a little hard to read. I do think it takes a little bit of navigation, but once you could understand the filters, it actually is very easy then to follow. So start with this report for those particular dollars in funds available. And then honestly, if you, or I don't know if you can't get anywhere, or if you could see that it really did hit the bank, but it should be an income, or you have to move it. So like, I don't know who has money. Oh, I guess do we have our funds available report? Let's see. Funds available, no. I wanted to. Oh, so look, so Hank and Rita Wilson, were set up as a client, and then the project is 19th Street, but they shouldn't have any money tied to their funds available. So if I know that, well, this really would be moved to the project, but if I know that this money is, let's say they abandoned it. They gave it to me as a retainer, but then they abandoned the project and my contract allows me to take it. I would move this into revenue. If you're in a state where this is taxed, you should probably create an item. You don't always have to. I would say it depends. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to payment method, receive client funds. I'm going to go to time billing. And I'm going to adjust it out this way. Remember, whenever you do anything in money in, it alters these totals. So if Hank Wilson comes back to me to say, how much money did I give you? And my answer is 0. My answer is going to be incorrect because I know that I took 10,000 and moved it directly into time billing. So keep those things in mind, but that would be a way to at least get money out of the funds available bucket. Yes, really great question. So somebody said, is the legacy report available even after we close out the year? Yes. So remember your balance sheet reports. Where's our balance sheet? Your balance sheet is ongoing. It compounds as opposed to your income statement in accounting land resets. So every year your income statement goes back down to 0, right? 1-1 if you run this and there hasn't been any activity. The income statement will show zeros for all of these accounts, but your balance sheet goes on and on and on. So the inventory number will move forward from 12/31 into 1/1. So all of your balance sheet subledgers are ongoing. So that client deposit will give you a snapshot of time for everything that's happening in client deposit as of today, whether that's open payments on proposals from 10 years ago or from yesterday. Let me know if that clarified the question. If you have open 2023 POs that are not needed, if you void that, does that affect the 2024 opening balances? So your 2024 opening balances are going to come from 12/31. I'm getting my years confused. 12/31 of this year. So if you have a 2023 PO, so let's do one. That way you could see it in the GL. If you void it, that void comes through with today's date. So the void doesn't go retroactive. That's actually I think one of my favorite functionalities. I have a lot. So, but one of the great functionalities of the software, your voids happen with today's date or with the date that's in your accounting date on the back end, right? So let's see. So is this this is a, I don't know if I have, oh, here's my AP. So, oh, here's a good example. So let's go to see what 2007 looks like in my GL screen. So take out invoice, right? Because we're no longer looking at invoice. And let's look at this PO. This PO may also live in vendor deposits. So this particular PO looks like for the most part, everything on here has been invoiced. Let's also look at it in our item screen. And we're going to avoid it. We have to avoid it. What's open? 2007 Crate and Barrel breakfast room chairs. Okay, so this is actually a great example. So these are breakfast room chairs. The client paid for it in full. This PO is ancient. It's from 2019. We didn't pay for it, or it looks like we didn't finish paying for it. I don't know why. I don't know if it something happened. I don't know if Crate and Barrel gave us a credit. So what do you want to do with it? Actually, in this scenario, I wouldn't void the PO. In this particular scenario, I would go in and I would adjust the cost of these chairs. And when I go in and I adjust the cost of these chairs, because the item has been invoiced, my adjustment into this column will be reflective with today's date. And so we purchased 6 at 485. This is like how detailed do you want to be? So we paid for, where's my total? We paid 1532. Do we have any other costs? I don't think so. Divided by 6. Hopefully, I don't know if we're gonna have a rounding issue. So we paid roughly that. Oh, I'm off by 2 cents. We paid roughly that for 6 chairs. Why? I can't tell you why. Does it make sense to try to figure out why? I would say no. The 2 cents too, I would put into other costs into freight and I would move on. If you go to your GL though, and now you want to see what happened. If you notice, I picked this up in oh my golly, I've picked this up over the course of 3 years. I did something with this particular purchase order and this invoice in 2019, then again in 2020, then again in 2022, then again in 2023. And now finally on 2024, I went in and I adjusted the cost down. As soon as I adjusted the cost down, it did it with today's date. It fixed my AP. It's showing I no longer owe the AP, and it actually decreased my cost of sales because I picked up higher cost of sales back in 2019 than I actually paid. So I'm hoping that gave you a solid answer to your question. Remember, if the PO is living in vendor deposits versus cost of goods, that'll differ a little bit in terms of how it's handled. But then remember, your GL screen is also a really great tool to see, okay, well, what did I just do? What accounts did it hit? And so I could see that as soon as I adjusted my purchase cost, here's my purchase journal right here. Oh, actually, there's another question. Discuss the best way to clean up old AP. So great question, right? Something we started doing. There's not going to be what I would say a black and white answer for each scenario. It really may differ. So this page break is really, Anthony, I should ask you to look at it with me. I want to know why it's there.
I'll talk to Greg about it. He's our reports expert, so I could probably have him make an adjustment. It's probably something with one of the data columns is probably too wide, and it's just like pushing everything weird. But
Down.
we'll get that fixed. Which one is 03 accounts payable by order by item? Got it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. So we may have a unique situation for many of our purchase orders. So if test item to move to inventory, okay, let's look at 200,354. this probably can be voided. I'm assuming. So 200,354. It has an inventory ID. Okay, let's go search that too quickly. On hand. So great, it's been received but never paid for. Ah, I was actually going to say this is a great example of a void because you could just void it. There's no payment, but you can't void it if you also are showing that this was received into inventory. How the heck did you get the test item into inventory if you didn't pay for it? Like, was it gifted? You know, what happened? So, actually, I would probably zero this out, like literally go in here, make the unit cost 0 and call it a day just to keep moving, especially this is only from last year. If this was a real like 1,000 bulbs order, and this is only a year old, this is from 2023. I would put in the work to say, well, I could see that I would investigate, right? I could see that it's living in inventory. I could see it was received. How on earth did we not pay for it? Was the payment to 1,000 bulbs just misposted? And then from there, I would then, after I do all that research, then I would come up with a solution. So, if you know that it was potentially just handled either incorrectly, or let's say the general ledger, I don't even see 200,384. The general ledger screen wasn't like the posting wasn't clean. This is Elliott test client. I wonder if Elliott test client is not active. Oh, no, it is. A lot of times each of these has I can't find 200,384. Let's see, 383. Projects purchase orders. Oh. So it's here, it's active, it's not in our item screen. Okay, I'm not, no, it's active, okay. This particular, let's look at what this is though. So this is, does it let me go to the item here? This is a bad example. This is HST
click on
test.
the
Yeah.
click on the pencil icon right there next to the blank. Yeah, click on that and that'll take you to the item.
Oh, it's funny. I thought I toggled by inactive. Yeah. This isn't a good example either. This is HST on a PO. I'm trying to get to a real life example. Test with the peeps. That's really, really funny. How about 200,502? Oh, it's invoiced. Okay, well, decent example. We have Claire's house. We were specifying some random accessory, random fabric for her. We sent her an invoice. She didn't pay it. We sent an order. We didn't issue payment to the vendor. And now both of these are in our GL, right? So this is not only on our accounts payable, this is on our accounts receivable. I would actually void both of these. It's not tied to inventory. It doesn't have any payments. It made GL entries when it shouldn't have. So in this example, I would void. I would void this. I feel really good about it. I would void the order, but I want to not lose it up here. I'm voiding the order. And then I feel really confident to say, okay, Claire did not move forward with this fabric. I'm gonna actually make it inactive and get it out of my item screen and get it off my reports. So if you have really old AP and AR, that process stays as what we did. It becomes an investigation. If you know, especially from like an accounts receivable standpoint, that maybe the record keeping isn't where it needed to be 3 years ago, and all of those items were paid, and it doesn't even make sense to look further. Again, post them all into bad debt, know that you did that, void everything, know that you did that. Like, you could make some general assumptions and calls if you know enough about the database and the clients. That would be my recommendation. I do want to talk about inventory too, because we looked at most of our subledgers, I think actually all of our subledgers besides inventory. So, right, client deposit has a subledger, accounts payable has a subledger. We created this unique accounts payable GL to track overhead expenses. So this would be a GL we should pull. We reconciled all our credit cards. We talked about that. We didn't talk about sales tax. We talked about suspense. AR has a subledger. let's talk about inventory. Okay, so this balance sheet at the end of the year showing $154,000 of inventory. That's a good amount, right? It's not $20, right? It's not 20,000. I mean, it's a good amount of money. Depending on how you treat inventory or where it lives within your physical land, right? Is it all in the studio? Is it in the basement? Do you need to go and count it? Everyone should be in the habit of conducting a physical inventory at the end of the year. If you'd like to ask me how many people do that, I could very quickly give you an answer. I think it's hard, right? It's very, very hard. It's this physical inventories are hard. If you have a store, or even if I would say small store, large store, right? Physical inventory needs to be absolutely on your radar, as close to end of the year as possible. But I actually then want to go into my inventory balances to understand how am I doing with my one subledger versus the other. And in the greatest news of the day, these subledgers match. 154,884 and 154,884. So that's great news. And then it's 8 pages, so it's not really terrible. I would want to go through these to make sure that my quantities are correct, nothing broke, nothing was stolen. Do you need to write off any inventory? That's the goal of this exercise, right? So inventory lives on your balance sheet as an asset. So until it's sold, you're not picking up the expense. But if you went and lost half of your inventory or something happened, I don't want it to just live as an asset. I want to pick up the fact that we no longer have it. So I would go through, this is again 8 pages, so not terrible, and make sure that what's on this report is valid. And then if you do need to go adjust inventory, projects, inventory is adjusted through the inventory module. It's here in the adjust column or the adjust tab. I would caution you, this is a permanent tab. The quantities and the merchandise cost and other costs do matter. I want there to be a passcode on this tab personally, because sometimes firms don't realize like the impact of what this can do. But if you are managing inventory proactively, if you are familiar with this tab, this would be how to address those incorrect quantities and costs. Catherine actually has a great question as we are wrapping up. So how do we write off old items and furniture and equipment? That would actually be picked up on your tax return. So make sure that if you are writing off a balance, that you would be doing that through a journal entry, but make sure that your depreciation is aligned, right? So that the amount that you depreciated on your tax return matches your GL, and then from there you're doing the write-off from the difference between furniture and equipment and depreciation. There should be a depreciation schedule somewhere in files for that. Let's do a couple more questions. Does closing out the year cause you to lose any information or access to information from the previous year? Will I lose any items, files, or photos? Will I lose invoices or purchase orders, etc.? So that's a great question. So no, closing out the year is literally, and remember at the moment, Studio is asking you to close out 2023. It's funny, we may be the wrong. Yeah, so we're in the test database, but you should be getting that pop-up, I believe, at the top of your screen that says close the year. Studio is asking you to close 2023 because at this point of time, you should be working in 2024 and 2023 taxes should be filed. Until you close 2023, you won't be able to open 2025 and work on it. I'm getting my years mixed up. So if you don't close 23, all of your entries on 1/2/25 will be dated 12/31/24. You can only have 2 years open at a time. And that does have to do with the fact that those balance sheet entries carry over 1 year to the other. And again, at this point, right, all of your 2023 data should be 100% complete. So you don't lose any data. It just allows you to go into a future general ledger period, or really at that point, a current. And then once you close a year though, let's actually go to our GL. You won't be able to make changes to that GL. So if I go, oh, so let's go. Nah, nah. Let's go to, I don't know what this is. Let's go to here and let's go to our edit pencil button. Normally, if I'm in an entry like this, oh, well, this is maybe a bad example. So hold on, let me go back. You have some flexibility in changing dates and moving some things around, deleting things out of the GL. You won't be able to do that. Let me see if my reconciliation screen will keep me from doing it. So in my rec screen, let's go to citizens. 2023 is closed. So if I go to 2022, I'm scared. It shouldn't let me delete it. Ah, okay, good. It did what it was supposed to. So I went in, this is just a straight office check from a previous year. I wanted to delete this transaction. It never happened. It's on my reconciliation. I could see that it never cleared. And I went to delete and you get a pop-up saying you can't do that. Like you closed this year. You told the system that everything in 2022 was factual, was valid, it happened. So even though at the moment we're closing 2023 to open 2025, this is the time of year to solidify the transactions in your general ledger for 2024. Hopefully that was a helpful answer. Someone is saying a principal requested end of the year reports, and I thought to send them income statement, balance sheet, AR, and AP. I would absolutely send client deposit as well. And depending on how you utilize work in progress, potentially a work in progress. Another question, is it necessary to physically reconcile any account that isn't a bank account? You would reconcile bank accounts, meaning cash and then credit cards, loan accounts, right? So those are also obviously tied to a bank. Suspense potentially, depending on how you use it. So no, you wouldn't reconcile like a furniture and equipment account. I think those are all the questions. So let me know if there's, we have just a few minutes.
Yeah, we got through all the questions.
Answer that. Legacy reports are my favorite, but I know I'm biased.
You
I don't
can't
even,
like the
oh,
classics.
yeah, they're the classic. I don't even go to here, the financial forms. I only ever live in here. Anthony, I'm telling you, for years, I didn't know this existed.
So many designers do not know about financial forms, which I thought was like a staple in any kind of like, you know, business operation within studio, that is. But yeah, I was shocked to know that not everybody uses financial forms.
Well, it's because legacy is I wonder, like, I actually like that these are in columns and that it's very, like, again, for me, it's very apparent. Oh, these must be like things I need to look at, right?
Mm,
They're
yeah.
here for a reason. Whereas financial forms are, the display doesn't do it. Maybe that's just what it is. It doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's such an easy condensed view, you know.
Yes.
There's so many standard reports, which, you know, we try to accommodate everybody's need in
Yeah,
terms
need.
of like what they want to see and things like that. Um, and we want to make sure that we have like all the data points in Studio covered that one would want to see. So yeah, that can be a daunting list, but that's why we have the favorites. So if you have favorite ones, you can just
I
see.
know, I know.
Yeah. But okay, well then it doesn't look like we have any more questions, so we can go ahead and wrap up and start sending people on their way. It's not the weekend yet, not quite the holiday, but hopefully everybody has a good holiday and a great weekend coming up. Enjoy the rest of your week. As always, thanks for joining us. And Julia, thank you for doing this for us as well.
Well,
Um,
and Anthony, I'm sorry, I just wanted to add to the user conference webinar is next in 30 minutes. So if anyone is, I know that's actually a really large group. So if you haven't signed up for that or joined or have questions about the first ever user conference for Studio Designer, there is a webinar in 30 minutes.
and
Uh,
you're going to be there, right? You're actually at the conference?
I will be there.
Awesome. Okay, good. Good, good, good. Well, yeah, definitely attend that, folks. And if you need to reach out to Julia, there's her email address, julia@newagefinancialconsulting.com. Her phone number, please make sure you're not blowing up her phone in the middle of the night or anything like that. Business hours only. There's her website as well. And should you need any support from studio side, we'd be happy to assist you in any way possible. There's a little orange bubble in the bottom right corner of Studio. That is our studio designer assistant. It will ultimately create a case if you need human interaction and help. We'd be more than happy to help you there. It creates the case for you, but most of the time, it'll answer your general questions by scanning our knowledge base. It's super useful and quick for the answers that you're looking for. Other than that, y'all have a great day. Thank you so much as always, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Have a good holiday.
You too, Julia.
All right, talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.